Yo dog, Kenny Boucher, Next Level Painting, hitting you up with another painting tutorial on this glorious Friday, the literal best of all days. We started him, the Lord of Death himself. We knocked out that red. 5 simple techniques to getting your red to that next level. Today, we're bringing him to the tabletop. We are going to make him exactly tabletop standard, not the demonization of the 3-color minimum. Fuck a 3-color minimum. We are taking him to the tabletop today in a very attainable tutorial. But hold tight for the more advanced painters, because next week we are going to take him to the next level and we're going to finalize all of his techniques. Anyway, please check out thelongword.net. This is the home of the battle reports. This is our hub for bringing hobby back. You get exclusive content. You get access to everything. Our Beats Laboratory, our videos, everything's a week early. You get an ad-free experience for that week that they are early. And then after that, they go to YouTube where they are saturated in ads. Also, Patreon. Thank you for checking out my Patreon page. It has been crucial. Anyway, I don't want to hold you guys up because I know you want to see this Mephiston. Let's jump right into it. Let's do this thing, guys. Part 2, painting Mephiston. Actually, more like part 1. Last week, we focused on doing the red. 5 simple tricks to painting that red at that next level. Simple techniques. Today, we're going to bring him to the tabletop. We're going to start off with black. Classic Vallejo Air Black, as I've said before, it's just the best black. It goes on so smooth. Amazing consistency. Even though it's an airbrush black, I can't tell you it's literally the best for paintbrushing too. We're going to go in there, and same thing. We're going off of GW's website here. I looked at how they painted their Mephiston and like where they put the blacks and where they put the whites, you know, where they put the greens and etc. And I'm for the most part copying them with a few exceptions. So get that inner robe on his pimp cape, hit it black. Give you a little bit of a break in between the red of the cape and the red of the cock robe. It is pretty simple, doesn't really take a lot of skill to do. We're going to do almost no highlight into this black because it is hard. It doesn't need it. My expert opinion, it is fine to just paint it black and paint it crisp. There's plenty of things to paint on them though. We got to obviously hit some of the pipes. We got to, you know, paint the shoulder pads trim. There's and also it's interesting that the GW version of Mephiston, they used a lot. It's an old model with an old paint job, and they put a lot of metal in places that you don't see them putting it these days. Like they're all about the power weapon glowing effects. I mean, they're at a different level. So, you know, we paint the tubes. Every little black tube that you can find, you know, like just make them black. You know, it's very simple and not exciting. We're gonna take black metal. We haven't used this for a while because all my metals, I'm trying to keep them as dark as I can on them. And we're gonna go through and we're gonna paint everything we can. Plasma pistol, little dry brush on those tubes, some of the work. I mean, anything you can think that should be a standard silver metallic, paint it. Most importantly, the GW website, they paint that huge weird psychic hood that he has, that insane, I want to call it, I mean, I don't know what to call it. It's insane looking. His crazy popped collar psychic hood. They paint theirs metal, like silver. So we are too. We're going in and just paint it the darkest possible. Like I said, we're going to hit it with that black metal, and we're probably going to wash it, really make it dark so that we can do a couple of edge highlights on it, because I think it's kind of weird that they painted metal. But, you know, they did a good job painting theirs, and we're going to do a good job painting ours. Follow these steps, and you should do a good job too. He is a difficult model to paint, though, because he is that 20-year-old model with the 20-year-old sculpt. So he's kind of detailed for, he's detailed for detail's sake, but it's hard. There are harder details to make look good. So we're going to go into a great color here, P3 Manoth white base. We're going to paint everything that needs to be a skull or it needs to be bone. We're going to go through and give it a healthy coat of this. This is like GW's old bleach bone. This is a great color for painting anything that needs to be bone. I love this color. We're going to paint all the little weird skulls. We're going to paint his big shoulder pad, that's a skull, and also the things that frame out his muscles. His fake, you know, armor muscles. And I guess it's designed to look like bone, like it's supposed to look like somebody's, without skin, where you would see the bones and the muscles framing them in. So I think that's the intent of his armor. You don't see them use it enough in the Blood Angels line. It is really good style. I think just Astaroth the Grim has that style. Same thing, he also has the skulls on his cape. This is one of those things that said detailed for detail's sake. These stupid skulls are essentially, they look like someone put Play-Doh down and like drew two little eyes for the eyes and a Jack Skellington mouth. They're the lowest detailed skulls on Earth, and they're there for no reason other than to be detailed, but they're slacker detailed, so they're way fucking harder to paint and make look good than a new three-dimensional computer model. And these are all old sculpts. I mean, some guy held that model 1-to-1 in his hand and made this, so that is to be appreciated. Like I said, here we go, painting some of the skeleton aesthetics in his armor, that frame in his pecs, and then also frame in his abs. Come in, hit it with the base. Like I said, this is, as we start framing these details in, you're going to start noticing that the interesting things are going to start happening to the reds. The reds over the course of this video and the next video are going to start sharpening and looking more real. It's just the funny things that light does when you have other colors around things. So this is, I've said this 100 times and I'm going to keep saying, I'm going to say it 100 more times. You can't fuck this up. This is a paint by numbers system now. Now that you've done all the airbrush work, it's really hard to repair a smooth airbrush transition with the paintbrush. And so you really just want to be on your A game as you're laying down these details. Super subtle, slow. Don't talk on the phone. Don't watch Netflix. Every stroke that you misplace is something that you're going to have to repair with the paintbrush, and something that's going to compromise the transitions that you've put down with the airbrush. So let's move along to that ridiculous skull on the shoulder, which is actually one of the coolest parts of the model. Paint this thing, hit it with that base. Sometimes I like to take a brown and maybe mix it in with the bone. If you're having trouble getting the bone to stick to the primer, like if you're using like a really dark primer and you can't get it with one coat, sometimes mixing it in a little bit with a brown will let it stick to the primer. As you can see, I'm not having that problem here. It's just something, in case you're having that problem, I've heard of this problem, as it were. Now, I don't have the problem, one of my friends has the problem. So now that we've laid down this bone, you can see we're really close to what some people would consider tabletop ready. But this is not even close to what I would consider tabletop ready. We obviously have a lot more work to do, but I will show you how to take them to the tabletop. Something I'd be comfortable with putting down the table. Pull out your brown. Any brown will do. I like to use Reaper Master Series Harvest Brown. That's my jam. Best brown in the game. I've said it a billion times. You can use snakebite leather, anything. It just doesn't matter. These are kind of arbitrary details. We're going to pull out a gold. Like I said, any gold will do. I'm using, I think, Vallejo Air Gold. But you can use any GW gold, anything. Like, these are the details that are just, that don't matter. That any paint line will do. We're going to take that pale blue from the Vallejo Air series. And you've seen me do this in the Dante video. We're going to start framing the angel's wings in with this blue color, because we're going to try to create that icy blue to the white transition. This is going to be one of the most time-consuming effects. I will not compromise this effect for a tabletop. You will have to put the work in on these wings. Before you take them to the table, you have to be responsible. Friends don't let friends play with unpainted models. Same thing on his belt buckle. His awesome pimp wings belt buckle. I wish I had one of those. I would pay money to get that Blood Angel belt buckle. Just so amazing looking. Same deal. Very carefully, very precisely, paint by numbers with this blue in. Don't play games. Get it done. And obviously, this is all just a framework for the whites. The white is a little bit more advanced. It's going to be the trickiest part of this more simplified tabletop standard. It's going to be all about getting really precise lines in on these feathers. And every time you don't get a shiny new line in, You're going to go back in with that pale blue, and you're going to have to try to repair it. Cut it back in. Go back and forth between the blue and the white. Obviously, a steady hand, the proper amount of white on your paintbrush, load it up, a little bit of water, and the proper detail brush will all go a long way for getting these wings to look fresh. But the thing is, you gotta get those wings looking fresh, because it is a staple in the Blood Angel's armor. Like, it has to look good. You can cheat and you can do these gold if you wanted to. Gold, a little bit of wash, a little bit of highlight, and it'll look just fine. But if you really want to get that iconic OG 20-year flare, this is how you do it right here. And you can see, coming out nice, coming out smooth. As I've said 100 times, just got to be patient. It's a patient man's game. Don't rush highlighting. Same thing, we're going to jump in on his little belt buckle, and we're going to make his belt buckle fresh. There it is. It's fresh. You thought I was going to bore you and make you watch me do that whole thing again, didn't you? Nope. So anyway, let's move on. A little bit of ancient Chinese technique here, Dwarf Flesh. We're going to go in with that Dwarf Flesh. Actually, I'm cheating here. I'm using a little bit of Vallejo Earth tone. It's just a brown. And I'm mixing it in a little bit with my Dwarf Flesh to give myself a little bit more of a base to highlight the face up. Like I said, a lot of beginners, they have troubles with faces. Faces are actually really easy to paint. There's a lot of detail there just waiting to be washed into existence and then paint by number highlighted into existence. So let's get a good solid shadow tone here. Like I said, a little bit of brown, mix it a little bit with that Dwarf Flesh. Get a solid coat in there and start highlighting it up a little, just a little bit. You don't need to go crazy here. I'm going to take a little bit of pure Dwarf Flesh. I'm going to like highlight his cheekbones and stuff like that. I'm going back and forth with the wet blend technique here. You would have been fine to not do that if you just left it here and then gone in with a little Dwarf Flesh. But I am crazy and I need my models to look just so. And you can see, highlighting the brow, highlighting the cheeks, highlight the nose, the chin, everything. And that's just pure Dwarf Flesh. I just want there to be a little bit of a transition before we go into the wash. And you can see it's coming along just fine. Now we're going to jump in and paint. And you can, I mean, like, just take a moment to appreciate that face. That face is done by a lot of standards. We're taking some brown. Any brown will do. I think I'm using the same earth tone, possibly burn umber. It's a free form process. I'm an artist and I'm painting his hair. But everyone knows Mephiston has blonde hair, so I'm just painting over all the red overspray with brown first. And I'm going to take a really bright yellow and I'm going to start blending it into the brown. And I'm going to start pulling more brown off my palette with a little bit of water, and I'm going to blend it back in together a little bit. I don't want the yellow to be this insane, but I do want it to be bright because I'm going to wash it. So the brighter a color is, the more it takes to the wash, in my opinion. And he's just a solid. Look at those beautiful locks of hair. Mephiston, you are so pretty. Prettiest girl to prom. With your pimp cape, your popped collar, psychic hood. He's just looking like a beast. And there he is. That is as good as some people can do. But that's why we use a lot of techniques here at Next Level Painting. There's a lot of techniques here. Now that that's done, let's move along. Let's start painting some of the purples. You know, you heard it. I like to use purples with my reds. I think they're fun. Like, a lot of people use greens, and I do too. I think greens are good, but obvious complementary colors, they get a little old. So I just jumped the gun here. I just showed you every little detail that I painted purple. The little vials, everything, little tubes that go into his heads, all that. Nothing crazy. Next, we're going to take that earth shade. This is basically, all intents and purposes, brown wash. And we're going to move in there and we're going to start washing things. Wash all the bone. Nice and easy. You don't want to mess it up. As you can see, it's already popping out the details. Wash. Get your wash game tight. It matters. We're going to go through, we're going to wash the skulls. We're going to wash the musculature, skeleton that frames it in, his ridiculous, under-detailed baby skull that's hanging from his necklace. I mean, that thing is preposterous and hideous. We're also going to wash his flesh, and that's when you're really going to start seeing his face come into existence. It's going to leap into existence. And you can see here, the model is taking on life now. We're breathing life into this old model. This model, I'm already proud of this model, and this is one of my favorite Mephistons. I've painted probably 12 Mephistons, and this is my favorite one. Took the time to do a tutorial and show you guys and really push myself and just do a good job. So there it is. Washed all that stuff. It looks fantastic. You know, you can see the wash is still drying inside the skull's eyes, on his shoulder pad, everything. But this is essentially a tabletop standard. One last thing, let's take out the black wash, because I don't paint metals, silvers with brown wash. I paint them with black, with none oil. For Space Marines, that is. Maybe some Chaos or some Orcs, I'll go brown. As you can see, gives you definition. Leave no stone unwashed. We're gonna wash his popped collar, psychic hood. Same deal. Make sure those nuts and bolts get a nice little ring around them to create some definition for later highlighting in the second video. But there he is. All intents and purposes, that is done. That you will go to any tournament. If your entire army is painted to this level, people will think you are amazing at painting and not realize how little skill this took and how much technique this was. Almost pure technique. Don't forget, next week, if you think this is good and you think this is done, we're going to crush this. We're going to take Mephiston to the absolute next level. Thanks for watching, players. Thanks for checking out that video. Don't forget, I've got tons of other tutorials in the archives, and I do this every week for free. If you're looking for an ad-free experience, check out thelongwar.net. All these videos come out a week early with exclusive access and exclusive downloads and ad-free. Also, check out my best friend Rob Bear at Spikey Bits, and of course the Long War YouTube channel for all the freshest battle reports. Thanks for watching.